Hi there and welcome to episode 58 of the ADHD Adults, our third extra episode. Is it our third? What's that? Yeah, it says 3 at the bottom. It's got to be.
Yeah,
our third extra Thursday episode of the podcast. It's a continuation of our doomed to fail experiment of adding complete rubbish to your life twice a week instead of once. We started it for ADHD Awareness Month, and so far, some people are listening, maybe 10 of you. So we're going to carry on. As usual, I'm James Brown, the man with more hair than a double BG. He's changed the script again, haven't you, Al? A double BG. Yeah. That's double gibbing, as it's known in the community. So, yeah. Hang on a minute. Your cultural reference point was the Bee Gees.
Yeah. Pop music.
Yes, I mean, it's very up-to-date and current, isn't it, Al?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, as usual, I'm joined by Dr. Alex Connor, the man they employ as a stunt double for the M&M adverts. Hi, Alex.
Hello. Are we still doing these extra Thursday podcasts then, James? I'm not doing. I can't think of 2 hilarious hellos a week.
The question really about that is the hilarious bit.
Yeah, I can't think of 2.
Yeah, no, I get that bit. Because thinking of 2 things that are completely pointless and redundant, you know, is normally within your wheelhouse. But hilarious things, you're never going to think of 1 a week, are you? Let alone 2.
Saying "what's up" doesn't write itself, you know. Thanks, James. What I will say is that we started doing these because people always ask for more personal reflections and bonus content. Not mine, no, and less psychoeducation, despite all the reasons not to. So we do. We mainly do the extra one because otherwise I just spend my time sending like Salt Bay photos to James while I'm cooking because it angers him so much.
He's not even joking that he does. And that's when he remembers to send them, because half the time he does the action like that in his kitchen without anybody being there, on his own, and just chuckles to himself.
It's so good. And also, if we didn't do the James would spend even more time outside his dad's hospital ward shouting, "I'm a doctor as well." You are, James. Well, I say you're a doctor. You've got the letters PhD scribbled on a flyer for the Black Country Living Museum, which actually really is a good museum. Yeah. Immersive place.
Scribbled in my handwriting on a flyer for the Black Country Living Museum. Well, thanks for that, Al. So, as usual, this white dog turd, gently nestled amongst discarded whisper rappers on the 1980s school playing field of a podcast, is also a tragedy in 3 parts. We'll discuss how the week between podcasts has been. It's a big one this week. We'll talk about from our own perspective, and also kind of what's in general been going on. We'll also take some questions from our community, which have been sent in either via Discord or on socials. And then we'll, I suppose, give a little bit more of our personal reflections on this week's theme, which was ADHD and pain. Am I right in saying, Alex?
That's right, James. It's pain.
Fab. So crack on then, mate.
How's your week, James? What have you been up to? It's been a week since we did the masking episode. How have you been?
Yeah, not good, obviously. I can't remember if I told the story last week about the dad and him not dying and me being told he was.
You did, yes. That week.
Yeah.
Oh, was that this week?
I don't know. That's the thing. I've forgotten. So we'll leave that anyway, because obviously I don't want to go.
You have told it, yeah.
Yeah. So obviously that, I mean, Robert from Kidderminster is still in hospital. We're waiting for him to get care, etc. So it's very stressful because trying to balance everything. But then after we recorded the last episode, that Guardian piece came out. And yeah, exactly. And understandably, the outpouring of anger and frustration from people who are waiting for a diagnosis and then feel obviously slightly more invalidated because a piece like this comes out basically saying, well, everyone gets a diagnosis, from somebody who obviously felt the need to get a diagnosis. And then people with a diagnosis have also been questioning themselves. We've had so many people get in touch in genuine distress saying, this has made me feel terrible. I'm doubting myself. I'm doubting the psychiatrist. It's diminishing, etc. But in that kind of maelstrom of anger and upset, that's what the positive is. That nothing, in my experience, since we've been involved in this sector, if you like, has united people like this article. And almost everybody, I think I saw 2 comments from people that were basically saying you shouldn't share this because you're fueling it, and someone saying there's nothing wrong with the article, but almost everybody was uniting saying this is terrible and we want the Guardian to do something. And obviously they've not yet. So
they haven't even responded, have they?
No, and I don't think they will, because I think they realised again what they were doing was clickbait to drive traffic to their website, which works because it was the most read article on the Guardian website. So they'll have made advertising money from it at the expense of people like you and me, and more important people than us who are really struggling to get by in life. So it's a fucking cheery discussion, this, isn't it, Al? That's been my week of anger and and annoyance. What about your week?
That's without me being there as well. Good, yeah. I let the mask go a bit after our masking conversation. I had to risk a lot of RSD. I've already said this. I can't remember. I just asked people to just sort of fuck off a bit from criticising me all the time in a nice, coachy way. But I needed to do that. So that was an interesting one. The Guardian article as well really pissed me off. I give them a voluntary donation every week, and I was thinking, I know, right? It gave. And I was thinking, imagine if you did that about autism or depression or schizophrenia or any other neuropsychiatric disorder. We get absolutely beasted for having ADHD sometimes, and and you can say it was satire, but the absolute shit satire. Yeah. So go on.
No, I was about to say we talked about this in the Is ADHD Real episode, and we've talked about it a lot on social media, and it's amazing that whatever it is, the bar at which they're willing to push criticizing that condition does seem to be different for ADHD, because nobody's written an article saying, well, actually it was pointed out to me by a colleague who we're hopefully going to work with to campaign on this, that actually the Guardian has written articles that are quite defamatory towards people with ASD or autistic spectrum conditions as well. And there seems to be this slightly anti-neurodivergent approach that they've adopted in the last few years, which is kind of against their traditional journalistic leanings of being kind of liberal and supportive. But I've seen no articles in mainstream media kind of saying, oh, but depression's not real and everyone gets diagnosed with depression. I'm not a doctor, but I can tell you you're depressed. I'm not a doctor, but I can tell you, you've got schizophrenia or etc. But it's weird that ADHD is that it's okay. It feels like they feel like it's okay to do that with ADHD.
I think it's because from the outside, it can look like a lack of willpower, it can look like laziness, in your case, it is those things. But for most of us, it's an actual disability. Yeah.
It's objectively those things. I just need to work harder, don't I, Al? Really.
Have you tried just putting, not letting it bother you?
No,
this isn't funny at all.
That
One of our, I had somebody contact us on Twitter to say that in their actual psychiatric consult for ADHD, the psychiatrist felt empowered enough to say, it's very popular at the moment.
Okay, no.
Fuck off. Right. Oh my God, these people. Right, I'm not doing this anymore. Let's be positive.
Yes.
What we do, we always ask the same extra Thursday question, James. What stupid thing have you been doing instead of what you were supposed to be doing this week?
So I've had a bug, kind of a flu-like bug, diarrhea and vomiting and aches and pains and all that. And it's, other than feeling ill, it's always lovely to get that reminder that when you're stressed or when you're ill, all your ADHD symptoms seem to get worse. So I've been I suppose I've been ADHDing, Al, and obviously vomiting and shitting like a train in the house. And what I was I had all these plans to do stuff, obviously work stuff and stuff for the charity, etc. And that just goes out the window because I was either feeling ill or just completely incapable because all the ADHD was ramped up a level. So I suppose it's not so much a stupid thing. I've just been having ADHD plus all week. What about you?
Well, one of the things I was supposed to be doing was at least writing a bullet point list of the scripts for this exact Thursday Extra podcast. And as we both know, because we have the Google Doc in front of me, I just didn't. I was supposed to be doing that. And the thing that I was doing is doing electrical stuff around the house, rewiring things. And I am not talented at that. But I'm like supremely overconfident about it. I've already bossed 2 new lights. Amazing.
That reminds me so much of Mrs ADHD, who has this, again, supreme confidence that she can do stuff. I mean, I know you're actually quite good at doing stuff around the house. You're diminishing your ability there, Al. Fucking hell, don't just give you a compliment. You twat or whatever. Yeah. But Mrs ADHD is the same, and she's just been bought a soldering iron. for a birthday because she wants to carry on making her jewelry. Never soldered, of course. Never worked with metal. But full confidence that this is not going to have any negative sides to it whatsoever. So I do love seeing that's not just her and that other people have that supreme confidence that they can do something quite technical like electrical wiring well.
She's going to look like a leopard when she's got solder all over her arms.
I thought you were mispronouncing leper then for some reason. You were calling her a leopard.
I mean, yeah, once the solders come off, it will look a bit like that,
yeah. Yeah. So I suppose it's been one of those weeks, hasn't it? I mean, having an illness and trying to wire your house certainly has an impact on
thing.
Oh yes, don't we just? Yeah, don't we just? Okay.
Oh, I also overcommitted. I overcommitted to fly to Bristol to do a talk with you because I was jealous that you were doing it on your own.
Should we dig into that before we go into the questions? So hopefully people are aware now that I was invited, and Alex was as well, actually, to do a series of talks on the science of ADHD by Seed Talks, and they wanted very much to break into the north first of all before they kind of move us down south. So we've agreed now an extra 2 dates have been added, Alex, just to make you happy. We agreed that I do some talks. Now, Alex obviously has massive. I think if the phrase was, he said to me that I'm 10% glad I'm not doing this and 90% burning with jealousy.
Doesn't sound like me.
No, not at all. But we've managed to shoehorn Alex into the Bristol show because he, by chance, happens to be in the UK on that day. So anybody that wants to see both of us completely ruin and produce a shambolic talk on the science of ADHD, we're both doing a talk in Bristol together. Can you remember the date? I can't.
Yeah, it's the 1st of December.
Oh, that's not long, right?
And despite this is such classic needing external validation, really commonly linked with ADHD. Is the reason I am in the UK on that day is the day before I'm being paid by Oxford University to give a talk on ADHD. Oh, but that's not enough, apparently. Like an ego as round as my giant head.
It just makes my week. That does brilliant. Thank you for sharing that. We will take a break. We'll come back in part 2 where we'll cover some questions and thoughts from our ADHD Adult UK community. See you in a bit. Alex, hi.
Aight. What's up? Hello, Governor.
Jesus already. Will you be my Valentine? Welcome back to episode 58.
What was that?
ADHD Adults.
What was it? Sorry, Alex just did a deliberate.
Professional.
Alex just did a deliberate 30-second pause before he started, which was fuck. Anyway, carry on.
This is why we'll never get a full Logan. You know that, right?
No, but yeah, have you seen how close we are? We're in one of the charts. We're one position behind Logan.
Of course, I fucking.
Which means
welcome back to episode. None of that's going in. Welcome back to episode 58 of the ADHD Adults podcast. We are in our third Extra Thursday episode where we do more personal reflections, questions from all of our community, and things we forgot about the last one. James, do you want to explain where we get these questions from? Because I really, really want to big up the Discord community as we're approaching 700 members because we've got volunteers to run it properly now.
Yeah, and we get it from people with ADHDL.
Yeah, I mean that is it.
No, so the Discord channel is our little online community which we're building and growing. There's a link to it on the bio on Instagram, and I think Alex has again pinned a crudely drawn tweet to the top of Twitter. There's also, if there isn't, there'll be a link on our website soon. And when we get to above 1,000 people in there, then it'll be searchable, so people can just search for it and join on Discord. But Discord is an app you can download onto your laptop or your phone, and then you can pick the channels you want to be involved with and meet and chat to people that also have ADHD. Was that good enough, Al?
It was really good. It's a massive time suck as well, so make sure you don't spend all your time on it if you can, like some of us do. Right, first question we've got from the community is from Kirsty, who's a big part of the Discord community. Hi, Murphy Meow Meow.
Hi.
And they say, has the artificial colours thing for ADHD been debunked completely? This is referring to the fact that a lot of people used to say that the hyperactivity and even ADHD was caused by E-numbers, was caused by artificial colours. James, you're a fat scientist.
Works on more than one
Who knows
level, that
about this?
joke, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
What do you say?
What I'd say is you can actually separate, has it been debunked, into two parts. Scientifically, yeah, absolutely. There is literally zero robust evidence that consumption
Load
of
of bollocks in it.
of artificial sweeteners during childhood somehow impacts the brain to cause ADHD. But what I would say is it's not been debunked to the point that everybody out there is aware of this, because there are many people who still talk about consuming sugar, still talk about artificial sweeteners, a little bit as part of those persistent myths and stigma. But in terms of the science behind it, there's nothing there. It's not a thing.
Not a thing. Like your hair. Right. We've had a question from Sensibility. Sensibility. I like that very much. It said, what are the similarities and differences between masking and coping strategies? Which I really like, because it was, we hadn't released the masking episode when this was written, but I just thought I'd remind you that it depends who you talk to. There are different views of what those words mean. From our perspective, broadly speaking, masking kind of is one of the coping strategies, and arguably not one of the healthier ones. It's fitting in, camouflaging to avoid. I mean, partly just to fit in, because that's nice sometimes, but also because people who are different face some serious stigma, violence, that kind of thing. And it can be at the expense of your mental health, even your physical health, if you're absolutely hiding what you want to do and who you are all the time. Whereas there's lots of coping strategies, lots of healthy ones, like working with someone to figure out what your strengths are and trying to fit a job that suit those. That's a coping strategy. But you're not masking, are you? It's the real you. James, anything to add? You big funny-haired monkey-looking man.
No, I mean, for once, what you said is relatively sensible. I think just to add to that.
Oh mercy! The compliments are just flying in.
Just to add to that, one of the things that adults with ADHD do, even when they are open and tell people they've got ADHD, is often masked to make people think they're coping better. So whilst it is like you say, a maladaptive coping strategy, and equally it's something that we do to make sure we fit in with colleagues or family, etc. Sometimes people do it within the ADHD communities to make it look like they're coping better. So it has kind of multiple facets, if you like, that we'll often do it with people that don't know we've got ADHD because we don't want them to know we've got ADHD, or we'll do it because we don't want them to know how absolutely fucked up we are in terms of what's going on inside those big, beautiful spherical heads that everybody apart from you has. So I think it is multifaceted. What?
Sorry, can we just going to feed that back to you? Those big, perfectly spherical heads.
No, I said big, beautiful. I said big, beautiful. Or I wouldn't call I wouldn't call that thing I'm looking at now beautiful.
The implication, though, is that everyone's got a big spherical head.
No, just people with ADHD. Anyway, the next question. The next question is from Gleno. And he said, when I first realized I may have ADHD and started looking for information, I was very conscious of confirmation bias. So I spent a lot of time searching for things that may indicate I didn't have ADHD as well. I didn't find anything myself. Is there any condition, trait, ability, or other indicator that a person can have that would preclude ADHD?
That's a really, really good question. I mean, the really short answer is no, because ADHD is made up of three things and you can have different flavors. So if one of them is missing, it could be. So, for example, if you're not hyperactive, you could have inattentive type ADHD. So briefly speaking, no, it has to just match all the criteria in the diagnostic manuals and have a negative impact on boing, on you in a couple of environments. And from when you were a kid as well. So, but there is a sort of yes answer as well, which isn't a fact as such. But a lot of psychologists would argue that. So I'm going to get in trouble for this. Some people, and I'm kind of one of them, think that it's very difficult to have OCD and ADHD. Which is really interesting because I think that you will read sometimes that there's a high comorbidity. When in fact, it appears that a central facet of OCD is the complex rituals needed to maintain those compulsions. And it seems that in ADHD, doing those complex rituals is notoriously difficult. So usually the ability to focus for that period of time, for long times, and many, many times a day on one complex, repetitive task is almost not possible with ADHD. There could be caveats to this, but yeah, that might be one. What are you laughing at? My funny eyes?
No. For the whole of that, actually relatively eloquent and well put together bit of dialogue you just spoke, I was trying to suppress a burp. And when you got about 2/3 in, I thought, should I just let it out? And then I went off into this little mind-wandering kind of, it'd be quite, if I did a really big burp now, that would probably make Alex laugh, and it might be funny, and also it would stop him in his tracks. And then I kind of phased back in just as you were finishing. That's when I started laughing. What I would add is that, and Alex told me this, is that there are a couple of things which I think are worth talking about. One is that lockdown actually created ADHD-like symptoms in lots of people.
Yeah.
And this is why one of the important people, I mean, that Guardian article saying, it's really easy to get diagnosed. Actually, there are pretty robust hurdles in the way of getting a diagnosis. You have to have 5 out of 9 of one or either set of symptoms, hyperactivity, impulsivity, or inattentiveness. You have to have some evidence, even if it's narrative, that you had it in childhood, because the belief is at the minute, although not all scientists agree, it cannot spontaneously occur in adulthood. It's a neurodevelopmental disorder, and therefore the brain has to develop differently.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. So whilst lots of people in lockdown, because they were completely compressed and staying in the same house or room with the same person all the time, started to get some symptoms of ADHD, they didn't all necessarily have ADHD. So it's really important. And from a psychiatric point of view, you wouldn't get a diagnosis if you said, no, I was fine as a kid. I had no symptoms at all, was completely fine. It's only in the last year or in the last couple of months that it started to happen. But there's also something that's worth chatting about really briefly, and that's sub-threshold ADHD. And that is that the 5 out of 9 of the symptoms for inattentiveness and hyperactivity, impulsivity, if you get 4, for example, and therefore a psychiatrist said, well, you don't have ADHD, you might have what's called a sub-threshold ADHD, which you might want to call mild ADHD. And actually, there's evidence to suggest that if you are in that category, that you have worse outcomes than somebody without ADHD, but not as bad as somebody with ADHD. So there's now a growing kind of a body of research. This is something that needs to be looked at, this possibly mild form or sub-threshold form, because at the minute you don't get diagnosed, you get sent away and question who you are, but actually you might have this mild form. Yes, Al?
So if you had 4 out of 9 on the impulsivity bit, but 9 out of 9,
you'd be an attentive type. You wouldn't be classed as combined. You'd be an attentive type, even though you might have mild symptoms of hyperactivity, impulsivity.
And it's a judgment call, isn't it?
Of course, it is. I mean, partly it'll be down to how well you wrote the forms. The other thing I would say is that really the purpose of the interview you have in the assessment, a psychiatrist will have worked out before the assessment whether you've got the symptoms. They'll have looked at your forms. They'll have worked out, yes, you've got 5 in this area and 6 in that. You're probably combined type. And a lot of what you'll talk about in your assessment is actually working out what else is going on. Because the last of the diagnostic criteria is that your symptoms could not be reasonably caused by a different psychiatric disorder. And I don't want to scare people and make them think, oh God, they're going to think this is anxiety, or they're going to think this is something else. But if there are other really significant issues that might cause some of the issues that you are seeing, that it's more obvious that it's that than ADHD, that might influence the way in which a psychiatrist views the decision that they make. So it's unlikely that there are other very common conditions, traits, abilities that might say that you can't have ADHD. But as a big asterisk, if you've got a lifetime history of a different psychiatric disorder, as well as now having these symptoms, it's possible that it could be that other psychiatric disorder. Does that make sense?
No, and I wasn't listening. And just before we go to the break, I would like to add that Glenn talked about that idea of confirmation bias. I just want to point out that people say to me all the time, I'm terrified of my ADHD referral, because if they say I don't have ADHD, then it's because I'm lazy. Then I'm just a faker. Then I'm the one that's actually just rubbish, and I'm just a bad person. We hear it all the time. And that's why people are terrified of this confirmation bias, that the only thing we can advise is we all felt like that, and it isn't true. I would say nobody is lazy. Just isn't something that humans do. It's motivated and not motivated. If you don't know what motivates you, what your intentions, how to deal with your intentions in life, that is a fucking nightmare and nothing to do with laziness. What say you, James? Were you listening?
You said no one is lazy. You said something about having a round head. I don't know. I phased that a bit.
All of us do.
Yeah, there's one more question now, because you said before we go to the break, there's another question. You have read that, haven't you?
I have, but I was that's for the next podcast. I accidentally put it in the wrong screen.
Jesus Christ. Okay. On that professional
note, yeah.
On that professional note, we'll take a break and come back in part 3 for our further thoughts on this week's theme. See you in a bit. Trumpet. See, it's this that if people saw it, they would understand why I have animosity towards you. Welcome back to part 3 of episode 58 of the ADHD Adults podcast. In this part of our extra special, it's not extra special, of our extra Thursday episode. In fact, the Monday one's not special. This one's no extra speciality. Jesus Christ, it's not going well today. In part 3, we give some further reflections on the theme, which this week was ADHD and pain. So, Captain Bulbous Cranium, do you want to kick us off with some extra personal reflections on how much pain you cause everybody who lives with you?
Yeah, I will. So the whole concept of pain and how we feel pain is tied in with my actual professional life as an academic. I used to work in, as you know, James, in migraine research, or in the molecules of the brain that cause migraine. And that was as boring as much of my work. But what there is a multi-million-dollar drug in the pipeline for migraine that's got nothing to do with me. I spent 15 years looking for a drug for this molecule to stop migraines. And I knew it had to be a pill that you could take, because no one would take an injection for a headache. And it turns out, James, because of hubris, arrogance, and a lack of interest, I'd never actually spoken to anyone who had migraines. Never bothered. Never even thought about any public engagement. And turns out, I don't know if you go on.
Well, or asking me, who's had a lifetime record of having migraine. You could have just said, "Would you take an injection?"
Yeah, if I had, then I would have learned that this is, this is sometimes suicidal causing chronic lifelong condition that people would cheerfully inject themselves 10 times a day to stop. But I didn't ask because, I had a PhD and I knew everything. This was the Aston years when I was not brilliant. And one of the reasons we do our public engagement, one of the reasons I do it, James, is because that was such an embarrassment when I realized that a lot of people's lived experience is more important than my scientific knowledge. And so, from a pain perspective, knowing about ADHD and how we deal with it is really important. But from a personal development, Jesus, I learned a lot. What about you? Tell us about pain, because you're giving me pain now with your face.
Yes. That's quite a good one, actually. I'll give you that.
Cheers, mate.
Yeah. I've actually had a little bit of time to reflect since we recorded the episode and kind of think about my relationship with pain. And kind of ages ago, I suppose around the time just before I got diagnosed, when I was really, talking to you, sadly, but also looking into all the coexisting conditions and finding those weird and wonderful things like migraine and hyperflexibility and hypothyroidism and the old stuff, a lot of them, not hyperflexibility applied to me, that I started to realize then that this kind of lifetime relationship with pain was probably flavored by my ADHD. And what I would say is, and this is really important, is that if you've got chronic pain particularly, and that means you've got pain for an extended period of time, it's not going away, you're having to deal with it on a day-to-day basis, it's more than the sum of its incredibly shit parts. You don't just have to deal with pain and the impact it has on you. It has a massive impact on the whole of your life. So my very well documented issues with mood and my the low elements of my cyclothymia, my mood disorder, are often triggered by pain. And it's the two pains that I generally tend to have. And one is the chronic back pain from when I had my spine screwed together back in 1996, and migraines. Those are the two pain issues I have most. And the problem is that if I take painkillers for the back, they give me migraines. So there was a period of time, particularly up until about 6 months ago and for 2 years before, where I'd have to make a choice. And that is, if I want to be social and see friends, fuck off, Alex, then if my back is in pain, which it is every day, I've got a choice, which is be in pain, which means you're a bit limited in what you can do. I kind of have to be sat down somewhere comfy. And, Sam and I have a long history of going to Ibiza and engaging in activities that aren't sitting down and just being comfy. And therefore, you kind of can't do those if you're in pain. So the choice is, am I in pain and therefore I'm limited in what I can do? Or do I risk a migraine by taking these painkillers, which mean I can do those things? And a couple of my absolute rock bottom mental health episodes have been driven by exactly that, where I've gone to a big party, or I've gone to Ibiza and stayed at my kind of cultural home, Pikes Hotel, taken dihydrocodone to get out of pain. It's given me a migraine, spent the next 18 hours in bed, missing out on all the fun and thinking, well, everyone thinks I'm useless. And then that's just driven me into despair. And there's a few issues there that are really important. One, it can affect mood, clearly. Two, it can affect relationships. There's been a lot of times in the last couple of years, maybe as long as 5 years, where I've looked at poor Mrs ADHD and said, you didn't fucking sign up for this. You didn't sign up for being with an old man who can't do fundamental things like exercising or go to a club with you or do whatever because he's in pain. You didn't sign up to be with somebody who has to cancel going and seeing friends at the last minute because he is in pain. And that's unfair with her. So my mood is affected. I feel our relationship is affected. I'm sure Mrs ADHD would be very nice and say, no, it isn't, but it has been. My self-esteem is massively affected because you've talked in the past about not feeling like a real boy. Well, I don't feel like a real man. I can't do some forms of DIY around the house because I'll be in pain. And I can't do a lot of the things that I want to do as an adult male because of pain. And that kind of knocks my self-esteem as well as my mood. It leads to me eating. One of my coping mechanisms for pain is eating, and I'm a binge eater, so that drives that whole negative or maladaptive coping mechanism. In fact, a few years ago, I was referred to a chronic pain management team. It was the biggest fucking waste of time ever. And they asked everybody in the room, what are your coping mechanisms? When I said eating, they went, I've never heard of that. And I thought, really? Because for me, when I'm in a lot of pain, just eat all the crap, the chocolate, the crisps, and it just gives me a little bit of, if you like, reward internally, which helps me feel just a little bit better. And it also clearly has had an effect on employment because I've missed so many things from either having migraines or back pain. And again, that really knocks me. So when I look back over the last 20 years at the parts of my pain, my relationship with pain, which have been negative, that's why I had a tattoo on my wrist. It's not all about you, which obviously I never look at because an object invisibility, etc. But it was there to remind me that when I'm in one of those situations where I think, oh God, I'm ruining everyone's time because I've got a migraine. Oh God, I'm terrible. Most people don't care. They get on with their lives and have fun. And I'm just laying in bed feeling sorry for myself.
Add to that the lack of the ability to see the future. Not literally, but yeah. We don't have that mind's eye. Yeah. It's hard to think of, oh, well, I'll be fine in a few days. That is not. What was that whistle? Is that you having a little whistly drink?
Me having a little drink. Yes, sorry.
You're the least professional.
I mean, I'm the second least professional.
You're the third least professional.
Yeah, that's true, actually. Mrs ADHD, yeah. Yeah, okay. Yes, cool. What about, have we done yours? Yeah, we've done yours, haven't we? I think you got more.
I'm just like fundamentally lucky at the moment. My knee hurts because I've ripped a couple of tendons in it, and it means I can't exercise, and the pain means I can't. And exercise is my coping mechanism for most of my ADHD symptoms, more than the drugs. So, I get a tiny 1% flavor of what you face every day, but I'm certainly not going to moan about it because I'm stoic and better than you.
Ironically, Alex, and I've not mentioned this now because I'm not a big whinger like you, my knee's fucked as well. The noises my left knee now makes, if I bend it for more than 3 minutes, it makes a very audible crack, and I feel a twang as something is clearly cracking, if you like. And I was going to try and stick it next to the microphone and let people hear, but everyone will vomit when they hear it. Yeah, good one. Yes. Yeah. Well, thanks for that. Hope your knee doesn't get better. Oh, I just wanted to point out really quickly. For the second time in our existence as an organization, somebody, I think in their mind very helpfully, got in touch to ask why I'm so mean to you, Al. Yeah. And when I explained that we've known each other and we've been best mates for 15, 16 years, and this is our dynamic, I mean, I'm not mean to him, and Alex is kind of happy with this. They didn't believe me and said, no, it's clear that Alex is very unhappy.
It's clear that I'm unhappy. That was amazing.
And also importantly, that your kindness and your something hard shines through for everybody to see, and everyone is aware of this. And I just think it's really important. We have said this before, and in fact, anyone that's listened to all the episodes will know we did an episode where we were nice to each other, because the only other person to get
for that.
No, I did not. The only other person to get in touch and say this same thing, you're too mean to each other, I don't like it. We thought, well, let's try being nice. So I just wanted to make sure if anyone's really unsure, oh God, I kind of love him to bits, really. He's a massive twat, but he's very important to me. And this is we're playing with each other because we are the kind of the closest of close friends.
Whereas ironically, I genuinely dislike you. And the reason that I'm bulletproof to your insults is because it's just like a dog yapping in a yard to me. It's no different from the wind through the trees.
Or it's just white noise because everybody hates you and criticizes you all the time. So it's just lost in that kind of, tsunami of people giving you negativity, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a superpower, always being hated for my personality.
Fab.
Right, lovely. Okay, I'll see you on Monday for the next episode, James, because that was episode 58, our extra special third Thursday episode of the ADHD Adults, another poorly advised extradition. If you like this nonsense and want to get involved, please contact us on the socials, Twitter, because it's apparently still alive at the moment, Discord, Instagram, the Facebooks, MySpace, Ask Jeeves, the pigeons, all that. Goodbye.
See you later.
Trigger warning, klaxon, 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 big klaxon. Trigger warning, klaxon.